Greetings and God bless. Welcome to another episode of Pastor Mike, Dynamic Voices for a Diverse Church, powered by The Witness, a Black Christian collective. I'm your host, G. Tyler Burns. You can follow me on Instagram at G. Tyler Burns. Please follow at your own risk. And joining me, as always, is the founder of The Witness. He has a very extensive bio. The man, the myth, the legend, the three-time best-selling author, Mr. Blue Check Verified himself. Follow his writings at jamartisby.substack.com. Dr. Jamar Tisby, what's going on, bro?
I like how you pointed me at strategic parts, like dynamic, like I'm a dynamic voice, but then also follow at your own risk.
You caught that.
Yeah.
You caught that.
So I don't know what
Subtext.
all this means, but okay. Yeah.
Subtext.
We hear
Sometimes
what the
though,
bishop.
you just need to put the comments out. You had some funny comments you wanted to read.
So we
Are they funny?
Well, it's funny, ridiculous.
Are they wild?
Kind of thing.
Okay. All right,
yeah.
go
So.
for it.
All right, you remember that video with they were showing worship at the White House. Sean Foyt, and it was the most mayonnaise on white bread worship you could imagine.
Bro, I like mayo. Okay, let's not make mayo.
I'm not mad at mayo in the right context.
I get what you're saying. Okay,
but mayo and white bread and that's it. Is that your thing?
I could dig it with a little salt.
Okay, well, that we have to dive into that in therapy at some point. But so I posted this, and this lady online on Instagram, we don't follow each other, but she wanted to hop in the comments, and so she's like, "What's wrong with?" No, she said, "Isn't this great? They're worshiping Jesus." And I'm like, "Ma'am, are you familiar with the separation of church and state?" And she's like, "I'm not sure. Can you tell me? Does the justice system not rely on, quote, 'In God we trust'? And does not any witness swear on the Bible to tell the truth? Or is this only for TV shows? And if it's not, is it only the justice system that is based on Christian faith?" Are y'all tracking? And not the whole Constitution, as it seems that the elected president, in capitals, can take an oath hand on the Bible. These are genuine questions asked by my husband.
Asked by my husband. I don't know. She was kind of cooking you at the first part.
I mean,
she was kind of cooking you, dog.
So,
what about "In God We Trust"? Historian, what about it?
I just thought it was like, wow, is this for real? Because like these are all the basic talking points that you don't want to use when you're talking about the separation of church and state. So, ma'am, these artifacts that you're talking about, hand on the Bible, "In God We Trust," many of them are a product of the mid-20th century, post-World War II anti-communist efforts ushered in by President Dwight Eisenhower as part of a strategic move to recruit the evangelical and conservative vote.
Hold up. No, I was just joking.
This is not part of the founding of the documents. In fact, one of the amendments says separation of church and state, which many people confuse with the separation of faith and politics, which, of course, you're supposed to bring your religious values into the voting booth, just as you bring your philosophical values or non-Christian values into the voting booth. But that doesn't mean you establish a state religion, because that privileges a certain religion and disadvantages others who don't practice that same religion. And then when you're talking about a religion that is sanctioned by the state, you got to say which religion, which Christianity, which version, because it ain't the one that's liberatory or freeing. I'm just saying.
What is in that? Okay.
Agua.
What is in this Justice Take Sides coaster that you got? This tumbler
I'm
that
just
you
saying,
got.
People
What is
be
this?
wilding out. They be going off in the comments and they ain't read nothing but what they heard on Fox News.
What is that? I only debate my equals. All others I teach. Yeah, I'm glad that we have different commenters at Pastor Mike. Okay, so I want to read a couple of comments from a recent Pastor Mike episode that we put on YouTube. And this is titled "From Young, Restless, and Reformed to Mike Todd, The Risks of Rapid Growth." So this is a very interesting title, provocatory, like obviously, but it was really, really cool to read some of these comments. So one of them was Felicia. She said, "So much resonance with what was said, particularly about knowing how to deal in a crisis versus how to lead during times of peace and plenty, and that uncomfortable feeling of watching things grow and feeling the tension of trying to keep it small out of some weird mindset that it can't be God who's trying to grow it. Thanks for naming this. It's exactly one of the things I'm struggling with in this season." I want to read one more, although there's others that I could read, but Nicole says, "This episode hit deep. Thank you. I felt called out in a good way." Wow. Yo, shout out to our audience.
Wow.
I love it, especially when Black women are listening to the podcast.
Hey.
So shout out to y'all. Thank you so much for hearing what we're saying. You good? You about to choke over there.
Choking on some of these wild comments.
Yo, thank y'all so much for listening. Please leave comments in Past the Mic Podcast, our YouTube channel. You can also rate and review the podcast wherever you are listening. And speaking of wild comments, y'all, we just had a viral situation with Bishop Marvin Sap.
Wow.
Okay, so let me set the stage.
This is one of your co-bishops. What do you
mean?
Y'all get the Bishop G. Tyler Burns and Bishop Marvin Sap?
What do you mean?
Can't you get in a room with this
bishop? Bishop Marvin Sap has one of the highest charting songs in music history. Okay, a couple of them. We are not the same, okay? And I'm not a bishop, all right? Bishop Marvin Sap was at a convention, and this actually happened over a year ago. So a lot of people were bringing out this reality, but it happened over a year ago. And at the convention, there would typically be a time where you will raise the offering. You'll raise the offering to cover expenses. So he gets up, and we only see a clip of this. We don't see the fullness of it. So he gets up and he says, hey, here's what I want y'all to do. Obviously, y'all know it takes money to pull this convention off. So Bishop Marvin Sap tells the ushers to close the doors. What? And so people are feeling a certain type of way because they obviously weren't in the room. But then he proceeds to say something in the vein of, hey, if 1,000 people here, 1,000 people watching on streaming, each of you gives $20, we can reach a $40,000 goal. People are like, what? You need $40,000 in the offering? Wow, that's interesting. And then he says something to the extent of, you're not going anywhere but eating. So let's just close the doors and let's get what we need. And so it went viral. And as things do, it was shared on Facebook, and then it kind of kept snowballing. And it snowballed to the point to where it's on TMZ. It's on the Shade Room. It's on Club Shay Shay.
You don't want to be on any.
It's on all kinds of different people commenting, coming out the woodworks, talking about it. And as it rises in attention, Bishop Marvin Sap comes out with this long explanation on Facebook, which I didn't pull up. I probably should have, but I didn't pull up. And he comes out with this long explanation basically saying, hey, there's protocol for this. There's a reason why we do this. Essentially that the offering moment is one of the most vulnerable times for those who are in ushers or security. People are moving about. And so we close the doors so that there's not any confusion and things of that nature. So it's just protocol. He said most people enjoy watching clips instead of actually getting context. And so you need to understand the broader story. And then people commenting, you didn't do anything wrong, Bishop. And my favorite, I love this one. I love this one because somebody was like, hey, people should stay out of church business. Now, here's the thing I want to say before I get into my thoughts on this.
Okay.
The fascinating thing with these comments is I sit on so many panels as a young Black pastor with many people in my church who are young and in their 20s. People always ask the question, how do we stem the tide of people leaving the church? How do we stem the tide of young Black people who are... Well, one way you can do it is you don't let them leave. No, but the wild thing is people are like, man, stay out of church business. And I'm like, if we're going to also have panels about why people are leaving church, we also have to listen to the people we want to be in church when they tell us why they're leaving church. And this is one of the reasons. They feel bullied into giving. They feel bullied into this moment. They feel like pastors and church leaders treat their money as something that they're owed, right? Like they feel like it's frivolous. They feel like, why is this $40,000 to run this particular event or this convention, right? Why are you doing it? Trying to hope to get that much money to make up a shortfall or whatever it may be. So it was fascinating to see. And it made me think about all these weird things we do in church. Mm-hmm. And it made me think about all these customs and traditions, which aren't necessarily bad in and of themselves. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but it made me think and ask this question. Do we want our institutions to grow? Do we want our churches to actually like flourish? Do we want people to actually feel safe in the room? And it made me think about all the things we do, and there's no explanation for it. Now, I grew up in a Pentecostal setting, a pastor of a Pentecostal church. So I have many, many, many things that I could tell you that are a little bit off the wall that we do that makes sense to us, but may not make sense to outsiders. But Does it make sense? Like, I'm trying to make it to where people understand what's going on in church.
I'm trying to go back to this Marvin Sap.
Okay, talk to me about the Marvin Sap
thing. First of all, how did it strike you, the explanation? This is just protocol. A lot of people moving around. I'm confusing. Was that just obfuscation? He's trying to save face in a very embarrassing situation.
It is protocol. It is protocol. I'm not saying it's not protocol. But the problem is with protocol, there's a tone. And the way he said it, it was like he was robbing folks.
Yeah.
Hey, look, all respect to Bishop Marvin Sap. Never would have made it. It's one of my favorite songs. Look, it's a great artist, great bishop, all the above. I'm just saying it made it seem like.
Yeah.
The way he said it and the inflection and his body, it made it seem like, yo, give me all your cash.
I didn't know any other way to interpret it from that clip, but it was like, yo, we're trying to raise this amount of money. Close the doors till we get it. Don't let nobody out.
Right. And how he couldn't see that would be a connection is very strange to me. But like, hey, maybe he did. Maybe he saw it in a different form. But here's what gets me. You want to know what's funny? I'm glad you went back to this because I forgot. He's actually releasing either an EP, an album, some sort of musical project that is entitled, wait for it, Close the Doors.
No.
You can't make this up, y'all.
He got to retitle that.
You can't make this up.
He got to retitle it immediately.
He watched that video. He said, what did you just say? Close the Doors.
Wait, go back.
Say that again.
That's it. That's the album title.
Oh,
Close
my
the
goodness.
Doors, the EP.
I don't know what to say, bro. Like, but now it is protocol. I think what he was doing is basically getting on to the ushers for not doing what they knew they were supposed to do. But for people who are not part of our traditions, they don't understand any of that. They don't get it. It doesn't resonate with them. They're confused by it. They're like, what does this mean? And we just keep moving. And then we shame people like, you don't want to get the whole context. Okay, first of all, I'm not going to go back and watch that. And I'm a pastor. Number two, that thing is probably 4 hours long.
Mm-hmm,
what context? How much? This is my favorite thing. People are like, man, if you got context, listen, how much context is necessary to be able to comment on something that was said publicly?
Right.
If it's harmful and it made people feel a certain way, it's harmful and it made people feel a certain way. I could say it differently. Okay, you taught me something. That's my old school conditioning coming in. Truth of the matter is, I don't think about it as I say it. Because it's just basically that's how my bishop dealt with me. So because how my bishop dealt with me, I deal with people that way. Hey, I should actually hold off on that. That's it. That's it and that's all. But now it's an EP and all this or a musical project. I don't know what it is, but it's
T-shirts
something.
coming out soon.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So
does it make sense? Does it make sense what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like we should be a little bit more accessible in church.
What I keep saying. Christians need to chill out. We need to learn how to take criticism because a lot of it is valid. And yes, even in the Black church. Why? Because the Black church has people. And unless your name is Jesus the Christ, then you have flaws and it's going to come through in worship. I come out of a Presbyterian background.
Okay.
And so this is very different than Pentecostal. So Presbyterians, they're literally named after their ecclesiology. Presbyteros means elder, right? And their whole thing, their favorite verse of the Bible is decently and in order. Everything has to be done according to a specified structure. They've been jokingly called the frozen chosen. Yes, because it's a very white tradition in general. And they stand stock still during musical worship.
Hey, go for it.
And but also during the sermon, it's going to be you hear crickets and pin drops while you are preaching, and you're like, "Is anybody picking up what I'm putting down?" But also, the decently and in order stuff kind of goes pretty far. Like
for sure.
When I'm in seminary, we take a class on Presbyterian ecclesiology. And we have multiple class sessions on Robert's Rules of Order.
Wow.
And how to, propose an amendment, second it, call the question, all of these things. Okay. It's like a congressional deliberation, which can be beneficial because you don't want to go in and change stuff in the church willy-nilly. But also, like we have to we have to call some special meeting with these particular people and have the quorum and do all of this, that, and the other because we want to change the church program or something.
It's a lot of meetings.
It's a lot. It's a lot, bro.
That's very interesting. I think of our traditions as probably the opposite. Like it's almost like too free flowing and too. Here's one thing that my wife was asking me this. Listen, I come from a tradition where the fivefold ministry, apostle, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers, is a part of what we do.
Where's your role?
So see, that's not. I'm not a bishop. Okay, I don't know how many times I got to say this. I'm not a bishop. All right, but I know it's a joke. You try to call me that, but the truth of the matter is, we honor the fivefold. My wife was asking me this. She saw some people that were talking. She said, "Hey, how so and so get to be an apostle?" Like we be giving people titles, and it's like, what did you do to earn this title? Like, what does this mean? What are you saying? What is the process? And I'm not saying there isn't a process, because in certain denominational circles and spaces, there is a process. We're going through this. But the truth of the matter is some people self-proclaim. They put titles on themselves. How do you know you are a prophet? How do you know you are a prophetess? How do you know you have this official role, not just simply the gift? It's always weird to me. And then titles in the Black church, titles in the Black Pentecostal church become this thing. No, to you, I'm pastor. Bro, whether you call me pastor, Tyler, whether you call me Tyler, whether you call me PT, which is everybody's favorite nickname for me right now, whether you call me bishop, jokingly, I don't really care, man. Just whatever it is, just respect my name. Like, it's just one of those things. I'm like, bro, why are we giving ourselves random titles?
It is interesting. When you look in some of these bios, we're like, okay, where'd you go to school? Where'd you get ordained?
Like,
who did the thing?
Who is the council? Who are the people?
Exactly.
Like, who's vetting you?
No, this was just branding. Like, oh, this is going to look dope on the Facebook page.
But the problem is for outsiders, they're like, wait, I don't even understand what this means. And are you saying you're one of the original 12? Are you on par with them?
The language.
Is there differences? Are there differences? Are you saying it differently? Like, is it something that's more actually the function rather than the specific power title? I don't know. Like, there's all kinds of different things. And in Pentecostalism, sometimes if you're not in a denomination, your non-denomination could be the Wild Wild West, man.
Oh, yeah.
And people just saying they're an apostle. It's like, bro, you haven't even planted a church yet.
It's a communal thing. You don't just dub yourself. And then in Presbyterian circles, sort of the opposite, where to be considered official or legit or to have the title, they set the bar so high that it's almost inaccessible to even someone who's been legitimately called, whether by the people, a prompting of the Holy Spirit. So in my background, I was with the PCA, Presbyterian Church in America. They had a set of educational criteria that you had to have. And it was set up in such a way that you didn't necessarily have to go through a formal degree program, but also the best way and the easiest way and the only way to get all of this stuff comprehensively was through getting a master's, not just any master, a master's in divinity. Yeah. Which where I went was over 100 credit hours.
That's a lot of credit hours.
And they bill it as a 3-year program. Most of us did it in 4 or 5 years. And that's just to get ordained. And then you're not just, you got the degree, now you're ordained. You have to go through examination. Yeah. And so you have to memorize the Westminster Shorter Catechism, 100 different questions and answers. And then you go in and you take a test and you don't know which one they're going to ask. So you got to have knowledge of all of them. You've got to write papers. This is just to get.
I respect it, though.
It can be good, but in a lot of
it can
cases,
be gatekeeping too.
It is definitely gatekeeping, and it can be a gotcha. And that was what I was looking at in my situation, because we were already doing what was then called RAND, what is now called the Witness. I was already speaking out publicly about racial justice. And so if there are people in your presbytery, which is a regional body of, here's the other thing. They weren't just you get ordained and now you can preach. There's teaching elders and there's ruling elders.
Yeah, bro.
So teaching elders are the ones who can preach and be in the pulpit. Ruling elders are the council of people, but they're not necessarily authorized to teach. They're authorized to govern. It's like, okay, well, now we've got ordained elders, but there's 2 different classes and they're supposed to be equal, but really whoever gets the mic in the pulpit, they have an informal leadership role. So there's all of that. And then you get if you have a cadre of people in the presbytery who have something against you, they can make your ordination examination almost impossible.
Wow.
So it's like this, it's going before a tribunal. And what it should be is
the Jedi
affirming
Council.
and confirming your call. But oftentimes it's a trial by fire. So, I would personally err on the side of more structure, just because so much can go wrong if you have people teaching and leading who aren't somehow qualified, even with just a knowledge or a content base. But it can very quickly go overboard.
I think, when you consider this, again, I respect going through a process, an extensive process, because I think that tests and tries people. But yes, it can become gatekeeping, and it can also become a reality of you're just looking for people to have the right answers, right? And as much as good as it is to have the right answers, there's other things that we have to consider as well. Man, it's so fascinating to me. Speaking of, we talk about answers and what you say, it is so fascinating to me how many throwaway phrases we use in my particular church context that I don't even know what they mean.
Oh my.
But people just say them all the time, right? Let me give you an example, right? So someone's like, hey, they're trying to encourage a moment of outward expression. And we come from a place where we do have an expressive theology. Expressive theology for me means the capacity to mourn and the audacity to shout. That's what it means, right? I talk about this at Think. I had a 9-minute talk on expressive theology, what it means, and how I believe it's biblical. It's eminently biblical. But the problem is sometimes we say phrases to get a reaction from people, right? So I was in a service recently, and somebody was like, all right, on the count of 3, I want everybody to shout. It's just not odd to me, right? Okay, great. Like, biblical, we've seen this in biblical times and operations. It's also very cathartic for Black people to have that moment of expression, that moment of exuberance. Great, awesome. But the thing was, the guy was like, hey, y'all shout. He said, see, some of you ought to be losing your mind right now. And I'm like, okay, now hang on here. Like, I get what you are saying, right? You ought to be really, really grateful to God. But like, the truth of the matter is, why do we want to encourage people to lose their minds? I'm just like, yo, I grew up in this. I've heard it 1,000 times. I'm just saying, why do we want them to do that? And what are these other phrases that we consistently use that just don't make any sense, right? See, no, you got the wrong neighbor. Tell your other neighbor this is what it is. What do you mean? Why is that the wrong neighbor? Because they didn't respond the way you think they should have responded.
Yeah, where the pastor says, some of you not hearing me.
Right. Like, what does that mean? What
happened is you didn't get the reaction that you wanted.
Right,
you thought it was going to be a fire line. When you wrote it, you were like, hey, they going to really get it. But they didn't say nothing. So
here's another one. Listen, here's another one. And I am a preacher. I want you to hear me. I am a preacher. I preach. I love preaching. I love Black preaching. The phrase, I'm preaching better than you're shouting, is a phrase that I would love to die, please. In this phrase, I don't know. You're not preaching better than they're shouting. No, you're preaching worse than they're shouting. Or you're preaching the exact same level as they're shouting. Or your preaching isn't defined by people's outward reactions.
Wow, imagine that.
They can reflect. They can sit and process. They can ponder. And I understand wanting to keep people's attention. And I'll often repeat things or try to get the crowd's attention because I'm like, hey, this is really important.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, I don't know how great I'm preaching based upon your reaction.
No, because on the flip side, from the speaker or the preacher saying these things, I find sometimes that the congregation is saying stuff at moments they don't need to be saying stuff.
Okay, give like for example, and be honest. Like for example,
they're responding to sort of the cadence and the style, but not the words.
Right.
The preacher will say something like, and I pondered for a moment. What did we say before? We sometimes we think that the line comes to you, but really the line is living in you.
I was like, sometimes we think that the weight is the line, But other times the line is the weight or something like that. You were like, what?
You're like, ooh, hey,
you're
man, he's
that's
really
so good.
Something.
So good.
Like
so good.
Sometimes I'm listening like online and I hear the congregation respond and I'm like, but what are y'all responding to? Like he paused.
Right. Like also, hey, I get it. Like I think it's good to have people who are excited to receive the word, but y'all got to make it less obvious when you have an entire row and the front row is the only ones who are standing and they stand up for everything. It's like, okay,
that's why they're in the front row.
We know that's the staff. Okay. Like we know that's the interns. All right. Like I get it, but like at least disperse them. So like it doesn't seem so obvious that the same line of people is just so excited and exuberant. Yeah. And it's like, yo, some of this doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't. And like, I think particularly as Black people, we need to be okay with being more discerning and more judicious with our amens and mm-hms. Because I think some of the time we're responding to just the cadence and the style and the sound of it and not actually the content of it, which then leads to people saying some wild stuff.
Well, and I think,
and saying amen to the wild stuff.
So here's what I'll say, like the reaction and the flow and the emotional reaction is deeply cultural. It can be deeply theological. It can be what Dr. Otis Moss III calls sonic theology, right? The conversation between preacher and minstrel, the conversation between the I don't know if he says dialogical or it might be trialogical. I think he might have said that, like conversation between preacher and pew and minstrel, like how it all kind of flows together. I think that's awesome. I think that's great. I think it's tremendous. I personally, hear me, love it. But the issue that I have is sometimes we actually need to be far more reflective. And the holiest thing you can do is not lead people to a shout, but lead people internally to reflect and actually ask hard questions about what's going on the inside. That sometimes the greatest sign that someone is really connecting with something is they take a picture of the screen or they're writing something down. Like I want to judge how people are actually responding to preaching based upon how detailed their notes are, based upon how engaged they are, how open their Bible is, if they're following along, if I hear physical pages rustling, right? That's the best sound to me. The physical pages rustling is actually a greater sound than the sound of the shout as a pastor. Not as a preacher, maybe, but as a pastor. Wow. Because it shows me that people are double checking to make sure I'm actually saying what the word says. Wow. They're actually listening to what I'm saying. Amen. They're writing, they're considering, you know, and I absolutely love it. But at a certain point, we have to be cool not getting a certain reaction. Yeah. And also we live in a time where many people are extroverts. They're reflecting, they're trying to consider. And what I found is I had this really interesting conversation with a couple of flight school students who are in their early 20s. And it was in between services. And we were in the lobby. And that day I had popped up and I was helping the greeting team. And I was like, just greeting people as they came in. Because typically it just shifts the energy when they see the pastor first thing when they come in. So when they were coming in, I was just saying, hey, what's going on? You know, I was talking to people and, you know, I was feeling a little bit more energy. So I didn't have to go to the back to kind of recharge and then come back out. And a couple of these students were just looking at me. And so I was talking to my sister. I was like, hey, hang on. They were just kind of looking at me, drinking water.
Wow.
And I was like, yo, what's going on? So I walked up to him. I was like, what's good? Like, do we have a problem? Like, what are we doing here? Like, they were like, no. They were like, I don't know how to say this. I was like, bro, just say it. He's like, we're concerned for the message today. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, they're like, oh, we're just Wednesday night Bible study really convicted us. And we're like concerned that this message might cause us to have to let some things go. And I was like, I don't know what to say to that. Let it do its work, right? Let the Spirit do His work.
They're truly wrestling with the word.
They're wrestling with it. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't go up and ask them. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't see them. I wouldn't have known that if they didn't tell me. And now I'm judging like, oh man, my sermon isn't good because people aren't screaming and hollering and running around the room. We've had that reaction at Rise City Church, 1,000%. we've had the reaction of exuberant praise, halal, the Hebrew word for praise, which is exuberant, boisterous, boasting in God, boasting in who Jesus is. We've also had the reaction where it was like, not that exciting, bro.
And what that brings up for me is, in terms of like not always preaching to get the particular right reaction, is there room in the pulpit for the breadth of human emotion?
Yeah.
Is there room in the pulpit for quietness
Yeah.
and somberness? Is there room in the pulpit for reflectiveness? Is there room in the pulpit for grief and lament, as well as joy and catharsis and vocal and verbal expressions?
This might be a little bit too much inside baseball, so I apologize at the outset, but I do say oftentimes that I want our church services, or at least, the sermons, to include 4 elements. I want people to think, to laugh, to cry, and to praise. Like, I want people to go through those 4 emotions. Like, I want people to think, not leave their brain at the door. I want them to laugh, because I truly believe that softens the ground for what's often hard truth, what the scripture is saying that we don't want to hear. I want people to be able to cry or have some sort of reflective, lamenting emotion, and then also to praise. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm aiming for that, right? Because I'm saying this is the breadth of human emotion that I want people to experience. But I feel like in our circles, we got to let go of that. Man, everything may not be a shout moment. If it is, dope. I'm not against that. But I also think that it's great for us to just have spaces to reflect and to lament and to write things down. And the final thing I say, man, is here's a weird thing I've noticed. All right. Love non-denominational spaces. Love all this. Sometimes I look at it, I'm like, some of our churches, we have too much money. And here's why I'm going to say this.
Close the doors.
There is an
Y'all
Instagram.
got too much money. We're going to make your pockets lighter in the bank account.
No, I'm talking about the church institution. Can I tell you why? Can I tell you why? Because there is my favorite new Instagram account it's entitled Pastors with Props.
Oh,
Pastors with Props.
Yes.
And it has gone viral multiple times over. And it just presents, without commentary, pastors doing wild sermon illustrations.
I saw the one with the pastor on the roller coaster going around.
Some are effective, some are not. Some are outrageous. Everything from, there was one where a pastor had a rock climbing wall and was like preaching while he was on the rock climbing wall. There was another while a pastor was holding a teenager in his arms, and we were like, oh, okay, well, they're just showing something about maturity, actually looking like a baby, but the teenager wasn't his daughter. So it's like very awkward, like, whoa, like, I feel like this is off. Like, and obviously the spitting in the face, Mike Todd, like, all the above, right? Like, so showing all these different sermon illustrations. And I think it's not all of them are bad. Not all of them are ineffective, but it makes us ask the question, I love the creativity, but is it distracting? And sometimes we just do things that are unnecessarily distracting. Yeah. So I honor and respect those who have that creative gene. I don't really have the creativity to do all the fancy sermon illustrations, although I should probably do a couple of more, right? So it's not like super rare in the context, but also sometimes we go a little overboard,
some of these things, it's almost like you can tell they crafted the sermon around the gimmick. And they didn't just bring in something to help illustrate your point, right? Like, because the goal is with any sermon that people would walk closer with Christ, right? And sometimes you can see where in homiletics there is an element of entertainment almost, just to keep interest, right?
For sure, yeah.
Not
it
in
is.
And of
it
itself,
is 1,000%. No,
right?
but it is elements of entertainment without a doubt.
But that can easily become the main thing, and not a tool to reach a closer union with Christ within the entire church service, right? Of which the sermon is one component. But it's like sometimes, like, oh, this preacher got an idea that they think was cool, and so now they need to build a sermon around it to construct it. Yeah.
Hey, we've all been there.
We've all been there. I certainly have. But I hope we would let in the process of writing or composing that sermon or sharing it with others, depending on your process as you're preparing it, we hope that we would let ourselves be corrected by the text or by the pastoral concerns, and not just, can I create a viral moment or an amen moment?
Yeah, because chances are you might go viral for the wrong thing, right? It might backfire on you, right?
Close the door.
Here's the thing I'll say. As we talk about church traditions and accessibility, I think it's cool whether you're in a position of church leadership or not. Cool if you're not. But we just want to say it's probably best that if you're interacting with people who are not from your church tradition, from your church space, you're inviting them in, it's cool to explain things. Like, we should actually do more explanation, not less.
Mm-hmm.
We should actually do more consideration, not less. We should actually talk more to people about what's going on, walk them through, hey, here's what we believe. Here's why we're doing what we're doing. This is our approach. This is our idea. This is what we're doing right now. And so we want to tell you what we're doing right now so you're not thrown off by it, right? Hey, this is what we do. Hope you can enjoy it, appreciate it, respect it, embrace it. And if they do or they don't, doesn't really matter, right? Like, it's cool. We've explained it to them. And if they reject it, that's cool. They may not understand it, or it may not be for them. There may be a better church experience for them. But I just want, especially our Black churches, to be committed to being a little bit introspective and saying, how can we actually grow the institution? And growing the institution means we might have to let go of some of the stuff that we've done, or we might just have to reinterpret or re-explain or interrogate those things and say, is it really necessary in 2025? Because if it's not, we should be able to let it go, no problem.
You should love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. We don't check our brains at the door in church. We don't just go with
no church brain
tradition because that's what we've always done. We should be thoughtful, circumspect about as a congregation and as pastors and preachers. So, amen. I appreciate you, Bishop.
What is this?
You know,
what is that?
I'm just saying, amen. And we respect the heck out of you so much, Bishop. You've done so many beautiful things.
Man, close the doors, man. Look, what are some of your church traditions? Put them in the YouTube comments. Obviously, we're on YouTube at Pastor Mike Podcast. You can rate and review wherever podcasts are played. And send us some videos. We got pastors with props, anything. Follow it. It's hilarious. But we would love to hear, how are you interacting with your church traditions, interrogating them? And it's okay to look back and say, hey, this really meant a lot to us. But now looking back on it, this is kind of a little funny, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we have to have a little bit of, light self-awareness, sense of humor, not take ourselves too seriously, right? Mm-hmm. Which I definitely can. I'm sure you've seen some things with me that you would be able to point out, but hopefully we can help grow our institutions by explaining it a little bit more. You can support this work by going to patreon.com/Pass the Mic. And as always, thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon on the next
Pass the Mic.